With the UEFA Football Championships just finishing a few weeks ago, and the Olympics about to kick off in a few days, tourism in Europe is booming. And it's no wonder to me that so many of you have been inspired to plan your first trip to these fascinating foreign countries, like my home country of Germany. Whether you're a foodie looking for authentic Spanish tapas in Barcelona, or a beach lover eager to tan your naked buns in the French Riviera, Europe is calling your name.
Francis, Jennifer, Jonathan.
As someone who has lived in Europe for over 25 years and made his fair share of travel mistakes, today I want to share with you some of my basic tips to make your first visit go smoothly and help you get the most out of your budget. So renew that passport and get your suitcase out of the basement. Let's start planning your first trip to Europe. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. I've been making travel videos for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. Every week during the week, I post a travel vlog from somewhere around the world, and on the weekend, I sit down here on the red sofa and discuss some travel related topic, like today, Sunday, January 28th, 2024. And my first and maybe most important piece of advice for you if you're planning to visit Europe soon is do not, absolutely do not, think you need a rental car. I know a lot of you out there watching live in North America, and depending on where you're from, it might be really hard for you to imagine being someplace on vacation for a week or 2 weeks and not having a car. But trust me, people, if you've ever wanted to stress your way into a complete emotional breakdown while in a foreign country, try driving in Naples, Italy. Try finding a parking spot in Athens, Greece. Try entering something into your GPS while driving on the other side of the road. And not to mention that the prices for gas are even more expensive over here than they are in North America. So depending on where it is you're planning to visit while you're here, really the best, the easiest, and a lot of times the cheapest way to get around is to just take the train. The European rail transportation systems is so much better than what you might know from North America. And I know not all of you out there are from North America, but maybe where you're from, they also don't have a train system like there is over here. Each different country has its own national rail system with its official website. The one here in Germany is Deutsche Bahn. And if I go to the Deutsche Bahn website here, you can see I can buy a train ticket from Hamburg to Paris, from Hamburg to Copenhagen, basically from here to just about anywhere. And if you're willing to do a little bit of planning in advance and make your trip not one of these sort of spontaneous trips where you just decide day by day where you want to go, which sounds like a nightmare to me, you can actually get around really inexpensively, and I'll show you an example here. You can see if I look for a train ticket to Copenhagen from Hamburg for the end of the summer, I can find connections for around 40 euros. A lot of people talk about the Eurail pass. This is something that you can get if you live outside of a European country and are planning to visit Europe as a tourist. And in my opinion, a Eurail pass is only going to make sense if you really want to be spontaneous, if you are willing to set it up in advance and know we're going to be here for 3 days and then there for 3 days and then there for 3 days. Just booking the train tickets in advance is going to save you a lot of money. And to show you what I mean, if I look at the same itinerary to get to Copenhagen from Hamburg for tomorrow, you can see it costs twice as much. So don't rent a car, take the train, and buy your tickets in advance. Now, of course, there are some cities that are so far apart that you're not going to want to sit in the train for 14 hours to get from like Frankfurt to the southern coast of Italy. In that sense, it's probably better to book a flight, and if you have some miles sitting around in your account, I recommend using your miles for these short flights in Europe. Remember, if you compare the size of like the entire European Union to North America, it's pretty compact. Flying from Hamburg to Barcelona doesn't even take 3 hours. So the miles that you're gonna use to book that flight are gonna be less than like Chicago to Orlando, for example. Once you get to one of your destinations cities, then of course is the question, how are you going to get around there? This is another situation where I recommend using the local public transportation, or you can rent a bike or just walk. Most major cities in Europe have some kind of underground transportation system, and nowadays they almost all have an official app that you can download, get information about how to get from A to B, and buy your ticket directly in the app. Also, these city bikes and e-scooters have become so popular everywhere, you just need to scan the QR code on the bike or the scooter. It will help you set up an account, and in like 5 minutes, you're on your way. But as somebody who lives here, can you please do me a favor? When you're done with your bike or your scooter, please put it someplace where it's not in the way. I don't know why, but so many people who use these bikes or scooters seem to leave them someplace where it's in everybody's way. Don't be one of those people, please. And I've been talking a lot about using local apps, and of course you're gonna need internet on your phone. You may be able to get some kind of international plan with your carrier from wherever you're coming from, but my advice is if you have a more modern phone, you probably have the opportunity to use an eSIM. And if you do that, you can use a website like Airalo, not sponsored, I wish, to get a short-term internet plan for the country that you're visiting. This app is what I always use when I go to the United States because my phone is connected here in Germany. All right, so you've got your cities picked out, you've got your train tickets booked from one city to the other, you're using your miles to fly the longer stretches, and you've got the apps for the public transportation already loaded into your phone. What about finding a place to stay? The first piece of advice I can give you is while getting a hotel close to the main train station does have its conveniences, usually the areas around the main stations in cities are not the nicest areas of the cities. That's just how it is over here. And I am personally a big fan of reading reviews and also going on virtual walks using like Google Maps. So I usually start at Expedia, look at prices, look at reviews, then I'll open Google Maps and go to Street View and then like walk around the area around the hotel online just to see, okay, what's the vibe like here? Does it seem like someplace I want to be walking around? And I think using this technique has probably helped me dodge a few bullets while looking for an inexpensive hotel. And I mean that symbolically and maybe even literally. Most hotel rooms in the bigger European cities are gonna be a little bit smaller than what you might be used to compared to like a North American Motel 6. But there are also situations over here like Airbnb where you can get a lot for the same amount of money. And this is another piece of advice I can give you. It can be fun to stay in an Airbnb type situation and then cook for yourself. Yes, part of the joy of traveling to a different country, especially if we're talking like Italy or France, is the food. But eating out at every meal, especially if you're gone for like 2 weeks, that really adds up. So for even part of your trip, if you're staying someplace with a kitchen where you can cook for yourself, not only is that gonna save you money, but going grocery shopping in a foreign country is something that I really enjoy. Especially if you have a dish that you like to cook at home and then you try to cook that same dish using ingredients from the local market. I always think that's just a really interesting thing to do because then you can just compare how it tastes with the stuff that you use at home compared to the stuff from France. And I'm not saying that cooking for myself is something that I've done every time I've traveled around Europe, but I have at least walked through a supermarket to see what's the stuff they have here and what is it like compared to what I know from home. Okay, I have 3 more tips or suggestions for you. And before I get to those, if this video has helped you at all, please consider helping me by subscribing. You can also check out my book of travel stories called Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. It's available on Amazon now. You're gonna need something to read on your 9-hour flight over here. Okay, we need to loop back to the beginning of this conversation where I was talking about planning ahead. There are times and events in European cities that greatly influence the price of hotels and travel altogether. I'm talking about like the Olympics happening right now. Try finding a hotel in Paris right now. I'm talking about Oktoberfest in Munich, which happens every year at the end of September. Did you know that Oktoberfest does not start in October? There are soccer championships, there are film festivals, there's a lot of conventions and things like that. So if you have the flexibility to sort of look during different times at your destination, that's gonna allow you to find the least expensive time to go where you wanna go. Definitely do some comparison of different dates before you book your flight and try to find out what's happening, where you're going to see if maybe that influences how much it's gonna cost. All right, a question that I've been sent enough that I thought was worth mentioning is, how much cash should I bring? These days, all across the European Union, we use the euro. So it's the same currency for France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Greece, etc., but not in England, just so you know. And honestly, people, nowadays, I just use my credit card and Apple Pay for just about everything. My advice is to have maybe 50 euros before you get here, and really, Just use your credit card for everything else. And it's important to always have some coins because when you go to the bathroom in a restaurant or a station or something like that, you're gonna need to pay. And you don't wanna be giving the poor toilet attendant a 50 euro bill and having them give you then like Las Vegas slot machine money back. So if you don't have any coins when you get here, go to like a little kiosk and buy a pack of gum or something. That'll give you some coins that you need for the bathrooms. Oh, another word of advice is, now that I've talked so much about using your credit card, make sure you check with your bank in advance about fees for international charges. You might want to only use one specific card if they have lower fees, and some also have no fees. Okay, the final tip I'm gonna give you might surprise some of you, and that is if you are not really into the planning, and I know it can be stressful. There are so many options and it's a lot. One way to see a lot of Europe and not have to do the planning yourself is to book a cruise. And if you're really on a smaller budget, it doesn't have to be a cruise with NCL or Royal Caribbean. Take a look at the prices that Costa offers and also MSC. I've done cruises with both of these cruise lines in the Mediterranean. You can find videos about them on the very unofficial travel guides. The quality and experience is different than what you can expect from Royal Caribbean, NCL, Celebrity, Disney, but for a smaller budget, you're gonna get a very authentic European experience. Also, I know river cruises are very popular over here in Europe, especially around Christmas time. And another tip I can give you is you don't have to cruise with Viking or AMA waterways. There are much less expensive alternatives. One of them is Viva Cruises. I have videos about my experience with them on this channel as well. And the other one that I've tried is Nico. Both of these offer European river cruises with the same destinations for like half of the price. So check out my videos about those if that's something that you've been playing around with as maybe how you would be interested in seeing several different cities in Europe. I could probably sit here a lot longer than this and keep talking and have a lot more tips. And maybe I should do a part 2 about this, but I'm interested to know what on this list surprised you. Maybe there's something that you don't agree with. And if you have a lot of experience traveling around Europe, what is it that you always tell people when they ask you for advice? In just a couple of days, I'm leaving for my next adventure, which is actually in North America. I'm visiting family in Minnesota, and then I will be at Disney World for a couple days, and then I'm cruising with the brand new Utopia of the Seas, which I'm not only looking forward to experiencing for myself, but I'm also looking forward to showing it to you in the upcoming months. So like I said, make sure you're subscribed and check back soon. I'm Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. Bye-bye.